I'm Boyd Walker, and I'm a lay missionary, living proof that any man or woman fundamentally determined to seek and know what God would have them do with their lives is virtually limitless as to where they might end up and what they might end up doing in that place. I've spent the better part of my life exploring the hundreds of river and lake systems that make up the Amazon Valley of Brazil. During these 35 years, I've had the privilege of founding and directing 2 missionary organizations that are still operating and vibrant today. These were founded on the premise that we would go only where others had determined not to go, and we would share Christ only where he had not yet been shared. That way there was no duplicity, there was no building a church across the street from a church, there was no helping where help was already there. In doing so, I was able to meet so many different peoples and get to know so many different places and to love them and them to love me back. It's been a beautiful life. In living my life simply looking for the next step of obedience that I might take, I find myself here today in the village of Inajá of the Waiwai Nation near the Guyana border with Brazil. It's one of the most remote regions of the world. We have very limited communications, we have very limited convenience, and yet we have the joy of Christ in us, and we desire to share that. I met the Waiwais about 10 years ago while leading a mission team to help another community outside the nation. By God's grace and divine providence, over these past 10 years, we've grown to love each other, and we've become family. In 2009, they built the hut that I live in today and I now call home. And 2 years ago, I moved here permanently to be and to do whatever God would have me to be and do here. At first, I was unsure that I would have any kind of effect that might help them in any other way than they were already being helped. So I simply took care of them much in the way that I took care of all the people that I came in contact with over my years in the mission field, leading teams and directing and guiding those who would come and give of their time. So I treated them physically, medically, dentally, spiritually, answering questions they might have about Scripture, putting to rest confusion on a few issues that are rather benign but are confusing. So I just went about my life doing that, thinking that, well, if this is what God has for me, well, then I'll just continue doing this until my days are over. Then last year, it became very clear what the reason actually was for my being here. Some 90 miles from here, over on another river, a sister tribe made a sighting of a new people group, or actually a remnant of an old people group that had not been seen or heard of in more than 50 years, since the Waiwai came from Guyana down here to the Amazon. These people have never before been touched by even their own, much less white people. This one group has led to the sightings of 3 more groups, all within our own territory, a 90 square mile area of dense forest. These are tribes of people who, as I said, have never before been contacted by anyone. These are tribes of God's creation who have never heard and do not know Him, don't know of Him. And yet they've been seeking Him just like you and I have all their lives until we find Him. Okay? So with this clear mission placed before us to reach these isolateds, we've embarked on a covert and clandestine path that's consumed our souls and excited the spirit within us. We immediately put together a team of elite trackers and blazers that knew the jungle well and know the jungle well, and immediately, again, began blazing in the direction that we feel first contact will be made with these peoples. Now, along with this euphoria of a clear purpose. Extreme obstacles have come up, difficulties, adversity, all that's developed in its path as well, leading us to know that we're on the right path, but at the same time complicating our workings, complicating our ability to move freely at will in the jungle. The federal agencies who monitor indigenous peoples caught wind that we were exploring, that we were blazing towards isolated groups, and very quickly began to use all of their resources to track us. Imagine that. And to find where we were and what we were doing. They've used things such as heat sensing, satellite imagery, and you know, things that I can't even contemplate. I'm not even fully aware of what they mean. They want to reach these people for very different reasons than we do. We don't desire to change their culture. We don't desire to take them from where they are. We don't desire to change anything about them. But the peace that is not present in their heart, we would like to take that to them. We've been threatened physically. We have been threatened with imprisonment. We have been threatened, I have been threatened with deportation, all to intimidate and discourage. But actually what it's done is energized us. So we're doing all that we can with the resources that are available to us. From the beginning, all of this has been funded by myself and a tight, small group of personal friends. We've each made and collectively made decisions and choices about our own comfort so that we could give more to this endeavor. But these resources that we have are nowhere near what's needed to meet the challenge of placed before us by these agencies. Now the urgency is to get there first. Now the urgency is to be stealthy. We too need frequent flyovers. These are clandestine flyovers, and they're quite expensive, but we need them because it's how we sure up the path that we're blazing, making sure that we're not wasting precious energy and time in the wrong direction. We need funding to operate and maintain our own mapping equipment, our own encrypted communication lines, our own flyovers. We need the funding to do this. It needs to be shored up. Our lives are on the line each time we enter this canopy. Each step we make, we have to clear in order to make another step. We're in it for the long haul. We'll not stop regardless of funding and resources. We'll not stop. As a matter of fact, I'm headed in myself here in just a few hours. What we ask you individually and collectively to do is what any individual listening to me right now could do himself. So we're not asking that one person do everything. We're asking that you collectively as a church and as an association partner with us to take Christ's message to some of the few people that remain on the face of this earth that have not heard. Become excited about what Christ said in Matthew 24:14 and know that you're part of that. So help us to help them as God leads us each step of the way. May God bless you.